Many people think Frankenstein was written in Switzerland, but it was mostly written in Bath. When I first came to Bath, the tourism office hardly even knew of Mary Shelley, but she has since become a major local figure, with her own museum exhibition and markers. Though only a brief 5 months, the time spent in Bath by Mary Godwin, Percy Shelley, and Clairmont in 1816 were some of the most tumultuous and eventful in their story, and in the formulation of Mary's novel of Frankenstein. A birth and 2 suicides would deeply affect them, and by the time they left, Mary Godwin would be Mrs. Mary Wollstonecraft Shelley. After departing from Byron in Geneva, the Shelley party, Shelley, Mary, Clare, the Shelleys' 6-month-old son William, and a nurse, Elise Duvillard, hired in Switzerland, returned to England on the 8th of September, 1816, landing in Portsmouth. Clare's pregnancy by Byron was beginning to show. Mary was still estranged from her father, and they thought to conceal Clare's condition, so Clare and Mary went to Bath, while Shelley sought out long-term lodging. Mary Godwin wrote in her diary,
Tuesday, September 10th. Arrive at Bath, about 2 p.m., dine, and spend the evening in looking for lodgings.
They found lodgings the next day at 5 Abbey Churchyard, on the main square just steps from the west front of Bath Abbey.
Wednesday, September 11th. Look for lodgings. Take some and settle ourselves.
This is an imagined room. The building was destroyed in 1889 for the expansion of the Victorian-era Bath pump room. The rooms were above a bookseller library, which was probably what attracted Mary's attention. They took a second lodging for Clare and the nurse. The other address was 2 blocks away at number 12 New Bond Street. Shelley was traveling for much of this time, dealing with money issues and negotiations with his father, Sir Timothy Shelley, over his inheritance, as well as looking for a hoped permanent house near his friend Thomas Peacock in Great Marlow. Shelley used the Abbey Churchyard address for correspondence while Mary wrote from the New Bond Street address. This was likely to show that Shelley and Mary, still unwed, to be living separately, or they may have set the nurse and Mary's son in New Bond Street with the pregnant Clare so that Mary could be with Shelley when he was in Bath. Mary referred to her stepsister as looking in on her, so they were for at least some time apart. On the 9th of October, they received an alarming letter from Mary's half-sister Fanny sent from Bristol. Shelley went to find her, following her to Swansea, where she had committed suicide at the Mackworth Arms, now gone. She had left an unfinished note.
Perhaps to hear of my death may give you pain, but you will soon have the blessing of forgetting that such a creature ever existed.
Mary noted in her diary on the 12th of October,
By morning.
There was no funeral and the body was unclaimed to keep her anonymity and reputation. Mary was writing Frankenstein off and on through this period with a number of references to writing in her diary, making revisions as she went. She was reading sea voyage literature at this time, inspired by her youthful visits to Dundee, Scotland, suggesting she was writing the Captain Walton beginning of the novel. She was also reading Sir Humphry Davy's reference on chemistry, as she was working on Victor Frankenstein's studies and scientific background. Davy was the originator of ideas of electrochemistry and voltaic batteries which had so intrigued a young Percy Shelley at Oxford. Furthering her interest in the science for her subject, she continued to attend lectures in Bath, including one by Dr. Charles Wilkinson at the Kingston Lecture Room nearby. Wilkinson had assisted Giovanni Aldini in his experiments in galvanism at Newgate Prison, attempting to revitalize a hanged man based on Luigi Galvani's theories, which Mary had heard of earlier from her father's friend Coleridge. Mary wrote a letter in good spirits to Shelley and Marlow on the 5th of November that she had completed Chapter 4, The Bringing to Life of Victor's Creature. Just returned from Marlow on the 15th of November, Shelley received a letter from Thomas Hookham that his wife Harriet Westbrook Shelley was found drowned in the Serpentine River of Hyde Park. The London Times reported only that a respectable lady was found drowned, advanced in pregnancy. Mary made no comment on the event of Harriet's death, but she was enthusiastic to support Shelley's effort to take custody of the children, Ianthe and Charles.
I'd wait with impatience for tomorrow, when I shall hear whether they are with you.
But he was denied. Shelley returned to visit Thomas Peacock in Marlow to search for a house they might take as a permanent residence, and visited Leigh Hunt, the publisher of the Examiner, beginning a long friendship. Mary Godwin and Percy Bysshe Shelley went to London on December 30th, 1816, to be married at St. Mildred's Church, now gone, and stayed with the Leigh Hunts. Godwin and Mrs. Godwin also attended the wedding. It was the first time Mary had seen her father since he banned them from Skinner Street after their return from the elopement in 1814. She was at last officially Mary Shelley. Clare bore her daughter on January 12, 1817. She first named her Alba in honor of the Shelleys' nickname for Lord Byron, Albie, but prudently changed the name later to Allegra, to avoid the too obvious of a connection. Mary's son, William's first birthday was on January 24th. The Shelleys left Bath on February 27, 1817 for Marlow. Mary was pregnant for the third time and beginning on a second notebook volume of her novel. For visiting Bath, the two locations are essentially just addresses. You might find a guided walking tour. Bath is a busy tourist town and there is lots to do. From the Roman baths to the Abbey and Jane Austen. For Mary Shelley, a visit to Mary Shelley's House of Frankenstein might scratch the itch of a missing limb. From here, we'll follow Mary's story to other locations you can still visit. Subscribe for more, or you can get my novel, Secret Memoirs of Mary Shelley, at Amazon.